Hello everybody, Hayden Klein here from HK Digital Reviews. I'm here today with a review of the new Slipknot record, We Are Not Your Kind. Yeah baby, the wait is finally over. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. Slipknot has been around since 1996, although it wasn't until 1999 when Corey Taylor came on board the band to actually front the band to where they are today. And Slipknot has had a career of ups and downs, but I will say mostly ups. We have their self-titled record, we have Iowa, and we have, in my opinion, All Hope Is Gone is a pretty good album, and I even like the Gray Chapter. But the album Volume 3 to me is probably one of their weaker moments, even though the album starts off with two of their best songs they've ever released, such as the Bluster Exist and also 3-0. But besides that, I find a lot of Slipknot's music to be very enjoyable. I'm not one of those people that thinks, oh, they're not like super metal. They're the Nickelback of metal or anything like that. I think that's just a little redundant. I mean, Slipknot is one of the biggest metal bands in the world, period, right now. There is no denying that. And again, it's for good reason, because they're a combination of alternative metal and new metal and a little bit of thrash metal as well put into it. It's actually kind of a unique sound. Not a lot of bands are doing that. In fact, I think Slipknot's the only band I've heard that really does the sound, or at least does it well. And they've had like a formula that they've been doing for years now that you can basically tell when a Slipknot song is coming up, basically from the verses. Really have a similar kind of style. But going into this album, I heard 4 songs. Well, first we had All Out Life, which is not on this album, which is kind of a shame because All Out Life was a fantastic song. It was the best song to fit the Slipknot formula that they have released in a long time. So, if I was thinking, well, if this is not going to be on the album, then what is going to be on the album? And that's where we got Unsainted, which is a track that when I first heard it, I was underwhelmed. I'm not going to lie. And I was really underwhelmed with it until I actually started listening to the entire album beforehand. Now the track to me is actually pretty enjoyable. And then I heard the track Solway, Firth, which was definitely the better of the 2 tracks at the time. Had a lot of transitions to it, a great riff to it. It wasn't so formulaic. It was kind of unpredictable too what they were going to do with their sound next. It was a decently long song too, so there was a lot to unbag from this. And then finally, the last single release was Birth of the Cruel, which is probably one of the best alternative metal songs in the past few years, like by far. It really is interesting how the guitar riff is definitely alt metal, just extremely alternative metal. Yet the technicality of the drums strive the song to go farther than it really should have. The production's nice too. It's very heavy. It really makes everything pop, which I really like. So going into this album, I was pretty hyped to hear what they could do. I had no reason to believe that this album was going to be unimaginative. It was definitely going to be creative. And I was really looking forward to see what Slipknot could do with their style moving forward in their careers. Was this going to be as heavy as Iowa like they said it was going to be? Was it going to be... Well, that's really the only promise that they actually had, to be honest with you. So, was it going to be as heavy as Iowa? And the answer to that question is no, but that's not actually necessarily a bad thing. Instead of this album being as heavy as Iowa, it really feels like a mixture of all their albums coming together into one album. And they mix everything up really well. But at the same time, even though all this is mixed together, they have no problem throwing in a few really cool creative things as well. So after we get the track Insert Coin, which starts off this album, it's just like any Slipknot album basically ever. There's some kind of like under a minute to a minute and a half long intro track that starts everything off, kind of gets a tempo going. Except this is probably the weirdest one yet. I mean, it's psychedelic actually. It really is. And it leads up to the actual first song on the album, Unsainted, which in my opinion is a little bit of a weak opener, but the production on the album itself actually sounds really nice. As a single, it was actually a little messy. It was not messy. It was lacking in like the hard hittiness and grittiness. But on this album, it actually sounds really good. The chorus is catchy. It'll definitely stick in your ears for a while. You'll find yourself probably singing it over and over again. In the end, I actually did enjoy this track once it was on this album. Once the production sounded much more heavier and in a way crispier as well. Then right after that, we have the track Birth of the Cruel, which, like I said, it is one of the best alt metal songs I've heard in a long time. It is definitely my favorite song off this album. The bass and guitar just sounds so good. The drums and percussion are fantastic on this song. Like I said, they really make this song do a lot more than it should have. And I absolutely love it. I love Corey Taylor's singing on the verse of it. And I love his screams that he has in the pre-chorus / chorus of the song as well. He sounds fantastic. I absolutely love every single second of this track. And it was actually one of the shorter songs on this project too, which I didn't really realize until I actually started recording this. But it really is. But it's really well done. And it was their most different sounding song that I've heard from them in a while. And it's really interesting because this gives me a lot of like self-titled vibes, but yet at the same time, it's like they're progressing in the alt metal universe in a way. And I really, really, really appreciate that 100%. After Birth of the Cruel, we get into this next interlude track called Death Because of Death. It's an eerie interlude. I don't know if it was necessarily needed. It doesn't add that much to the next track that comes down here, which is Nero Forte, which starts off with a fantastic riff. One of the best sounding riffs that they've had ever, just period. And it's just fierce. It's just hard hitting, fantastic, structured beautifully. I mean, the chorus on it's pretty good as well. The bridge is extremely thunderous, which I love. And there's like this yelling in the background too, in the bridge of this track, that reminds me so much of the screams of the word shock and the Fear Factory song Shock. Like the tone of the voice sounds the same, and like the background effects that they use for those screams and that Fear Factory song sound like it was put on this track. Like honestly, immediately I thought of Fear Factory when I heard those background screams going on. So I actually think that's pretty nice. I like that a lot. And yeah, it's a great track. It fits really well after coming out of Birth of the Cruel. That's more of a groovier metal track. In the Sun, it's a lot faster paced, a lot heavier. After this, though, we get to a section of this album where I kind of feel like stuff starts to kind of drop a little bit in quality. And I'm not going to say like a total drop to like pure just garbage, but you can definitely tell there's a difference between what you've heard already to what's here now. Like the track Critical Darling, I feel like it's a track that's trying to be heavier than it actually is. Like the guitar riffs don't exactly pop out as much. You know, they kind of try to at the beginning. It honestly sounds like a song that we've heard from the Grey Chapter. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I do actually get a lot of enjoyment out of that album. But at the same time, it's like one of those more refined songs on there. Like it tries to mix Iowa intentions with the Grey Chapter, and it kind of works. But this is one of the times where I wish the production made the guitars a little bit more in the forefront. I think this song would have been a lot more enjoyable if that was the case. Instead, they're kind of just like more in the back, and they don't provide any kind of hitting power really whatsoever. So it's a track in the end that it's good. I like a lot what's going on here. It's structured beautifully. But compared to other songs on here, it's a little bit weaker. And we don't really climb up from there. We kind of start dwindling down just a little bit more with the track A Liar's Funeral. I've never been one to enjoy the more, I don't know what you call it, acoustic ballady kind of songs that they release. Not that this is only just an acoustic ballad. It does get a little bit heavier and more creepier sense halfway through and stuff like that. Kind of like what Snuff does in a way, except Snuff really doesn't go as heavy as this. But really, when you put in the context of the rest of this album, this is one of the more lower points in my opinion. I don't know. It's just, again, it's a little bit boring when you compare it to what's been going on so far in this album. Everything sounds so great so far. When you put a track like this on here, it's not going to go as planned. And then we have the track Red Flag, which is a song that is about 4 minutes in length. Again, one of the shorter actual songs on here. It's like a raging track. It's meant to be heavy. It goes into that old Slipknot formula, which is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, that's not a bad thing. But this time it doesn't really doesn't do anything to make it stick out compared to other songs with this Slipknot formula. Because that's the thing about the Slipknot formula that I say, is that every single song that they use this formula in, it sounds different still from each other. And there's something about it that makes it sound better, or at least more enjoyable in a sense from other songs of this style. This song doesn't actually do that. It's just kind of there to be there. It's almost, I would even say, like a filler track, to be honest with you, in my opinion. But again, it's still enjoyable. The guitars are nice in it. The bass is nice. The drums are pretty good as well. And, again, it's just though it's a little boring at this point. You're kind of thinking, okay, we had all these great songs beforehand that sounded really different from the Slipknot going. We had to have something that sounds different soon, right? Well, with the next track, we actually do get that. The track Spiders is the band's attempt to really, or at least the first attempt, I should say, on this album to do something completely different from what they've done. And it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. This is really the only song on this album I can say I probably won't come back to because I actually don't think it's good. I really don't. This is an attempt for them to go into a more Marilyn Manson inspired sounding metal song. Like, not like the more fast tempoed Marilyn Manson songs, like the Dope Show kind of Manson song. Except the Dope Show is a good song. This one, it's not. This is a song I think that would have fit better if Stone Sour wrote it. I'm not even joking. Because it sounds like Stone Sour is trying to be more creative. It doesn't sound like Slipknot trying to be more creative. And even if this was Stone Sour and this song was on that album, I think I would still have the same problems as I do with it right now. One, the beat just does not sound all that great. Like I said, yeah, it's Manson inspired, but it's not like a good raging hit one, anything like that. It's like one of those deep cuts in Marilyn Manson albums that nobody ever talks about, because most Marilyn Manson deep cuts are usually not worth talking about, in all honesty. But I mean, I like Manson still, don't get me wrong. I think Marilyn Manson's a lot of good music. I do enjoy a lot of it, but he does have some deep cuts that are not that good. And this song feels like it was structured out of one of those forgettable deep cuts. So it's just not going well. And Corey Taylor's voice is okay on this, but again, he sounds like he's singing Stone Sour, and he should be more Slipknot oriented. But after this track, we're delivered with something I think is pretty special. After Spiders, we have the track Orphan, which is the heaviest, most intense song on this project by far. This song, no question, reminds me of Iowa. 110%. This song sounds like it actually was an Iowa track that just got lost. That accidentally fell out of the track listing, and it found its way, and it manifested its way back into this album. This song sounds like Iowa 110%, and it sounds fantastic. It starts off a little slow, alright? Nice kind of getting the mood set in. And then it just comes in like a fucking freight train and bowls over everything with extremely fast kick pedaling, extremely fast riffage, extremely well done and heavy production. In fact, after the two verses, halfway through the two verses on this thing, I don't know what the production does exactly, but all of a sudden the drum hits just get so much more pronounced, like the bass drum hits too, and so the cymbals, just like they're in their own little world all of a sudden. It's just pounding you in the ears, and it sounds fantastic. The percussion is also fantastic on this track. My God, this is exactly what I expected this album to be more like. Because when they said this was going to be Iowa levels of heavy, I was expecting this song multiple times on this album, but we at least got it once, and that's okay, because that just proves to me that Slipknot can still be very heavy when they want to be, and Iowa was a really heavy album. Is it my favorite Slipknot album personally? No. Self-titled definitely takes that. Wow, nah, losing my words here. Takes that title is what I'm trying to say. But this song is still very well done. It's still fantastic. It does sound like Iowa, and if they can really keep matching this sound in the future, I will not have a problem with that. I would have no problem with them coming out with more music that sounds like their Iowa album. No question about that. And this song definitely does that. And after this track, Orphan, we have the song My Pain. And this is the other really creative moment that Slipknot provides to us on this album. This sounds like the Slipknot creative song I wanted to hear. This is well, it's weird. It's almost in a way like a neoclassical dark wave song because it's very ambient with lyrics and singing that's a little bit more on the creepier side. It's an interesting song about love that Corey Taylor's bringing us here, but again, it's a very ambient inspired song, very atmospheric, and it's just fantastic, really. It's a really well done piece of music by him. The atmospheric ambient droning synths really do provide a more kind of creepier, haunting atmosphere to him being in love and just, having a hard time getting with that and stuff like that. And it goes on for 6 minutes, and it's a very nice breather that makes sense for a Slipknot record. This makes sense. This 6-minute piece makes a lot more sense than what they did with Spiders. Okay, Spiders just seemed like a mess in a way. But the track My Pain is exactly what you would expect from a slower Slipknot song. It's exactly what a slower Slipknot song should sound like. Keep that creepiness in there. Keep that darkness in there. Don't piss it all away for a different sounding track. So this was good. That was a good transition. That was a great song to really show their creative chops on, and it's just a nice addition to the entire album. Then we have the track Not Long for This World. Not much to say about it. It's a solid tune, longer, starts out slower. The choruses are definitely much more amplified, a little bit heavier. Good stuff. 6.5 minutes. Good track, doesn't really overstay its welcome. Pretty solid way to start the end of the album. But the end of this album is actually Solway Firth, which is a fantastic track. I love the track. I didn't expect it to be the ending of this album though. I think the structure of the album is a little bit hurt because of it. I don't think this is the best way to end this album. It's not the heaviest moment. It's also not the lightest moment. Like I would think the track My Pain would be the best way to end this album off because it's completely different. It's a completely different mood from what we had going already. It slows things down, Or have the track Orphan be the final one because that's really the most aggressive, hard-hitting song on the album. And I feel like that's how the album should have been structured. But I digress, really. It's still a good track. It's a good way to end this album off. I do love the different transitional moments on this thing. I love the guitar riff. I love the drums. I love Corey Taylor. He sounds nice and fresh on this track, too. It's a good way to end the album. Is it the way I would have chosen? No, but that's just me. So overall, what we have here is Slipknot showing signs of evolution more so than they have on their past few releases. Like, yes, there might have been some more interesting sounding kind of songs on the Gray Chapter that could have been qualified as more evolutionized, but I think here more so, you hear them starting to kind of go through an evolutional change. A lot of the songs in here have a nice variety to them. There's definitely a lot of interesting ideas that are playing out on this album. Are they always crafted perfectly or excellently? No. Spiders is a good example of that. But still, this album does provide a nice variety of stuff that you can listen to on it. Something that, in Slipknot cases, can be a little bit hard to do. And I think because of that, this is one of their more well-crafted albums that they've released yet. There are some things I would change on this, or some tracks are a little bit dull. But I have to hand it to them. I'm liking what I'm hearing from Slipknot. And it seems like they're still, figuring their sound out, to be honest with you. And that's actually a pretty cool thing. After 20 plus years or so, they're still sounding more fresh than they had from the last album, and I'm really happy to hear that from Slipknot themselves. So I guess that's all I have to say really about this album. Yeah, so Slipknot, We Are Not Your Kind gets a nice solid 8 out of 10 for this project. It met my expectations. I mean, yeah, I thought it was gonna be heavier, but when it came to overall rating and score, this an 8 out of 10 is what I expected, and 8 out of 10 is what I got. So I'm pretty happy with what I got here. Yeah, and that's it. So thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to be notified when I release videos. Hopefully I'll be doing that more often. La da la da 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 da. Upcoming videos and reviews is to be determined at the moment. Gotta get myself more scheduled up. You know, a lot of things going on, but it's all good. I'll have more videos out soon, hopefully. And yeah, I think my next video might be a quick reviews. That's what I want to do. Another quick review of a bunch of albums, but we'll see when we get there. Comment down below what you thought about this album. Do you agree with what I said? Do you like the revolutional, I guess, yeah, do you like the revolutional characteristics that they're doing here on this project? Or do you not? Do you think this album was kind of weak compared to their other releases? Did this meet your expectations? Did it not? Blah, 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 blah. Talk about all you want. Just keep it nice and clean in the comments. And that's it. So thank you all so much for watching, and please have a nice day.